Eliminate the workplace excuse. That's what leaders do. This is the Career Blind Spot Podcast.
From the Lonely Office podcast, TLO podcast perspective, what could or should be learned from the recent Luka Dončić lifetime crazy unprecedented trade?
The only thing that I would say, I can only speak from my perspective as one of three hosts, but they know what I'm going to say, which is what I learned from this trade is that as an employee working for anyone, you are always tradable.
Yep.
And that has always been my reality, in the private sector. And so for me, what it taught me was that I made the right choice to go work for myself.
Yeah.
5 years ago, best choice I've ever made because there's stress there, but at the same time, I have to fire me, and I'm not looking to do that anytime.
Yeah. And I think that you had used the phrase offline of like player empowerment era. I think LeBron kind of peaked that. And you are a biased LeBron fan, but I like him too. But we are here on the Career Blind Spot podcast, crossing over with one of three hosts from the Lonely Office podcast, a Glassdoor podcast in Aaron Calafato, as well as creator and storyteller of 7 Minute Stories podcast. I highly recommend you guys check that out. He's actually been a past guest, so we should probably share that. We both come a long way since then.
Like
and I'm outside. Yeah, I'm outside right now. Just lost the sun, but
it's a beauty. You're in the magic hour, man. This is like Terrence Malick. They can't see it on the live stream here, but you have Terrence Malick, beautiful magic hour happening right now. Yeah. This is a cinematic experience.
I'm glowing. I feel like, but and recently, totally off topic, but we'll see if it's or not top. This is not a sports podcast episode. We're using something. I'll be doing this with nerdy comic sci-fi and probably WWE, which we've talked about too. But this is, Career Blind Spot is about leadership. Lonely Office is about, navigating these sometimes unfair systemic issues, but also making the most of it. I'm a big fan of the podcast and recommend it already. But with Luka, for those who aren't sports fans, not just a superstar, but a very young player who
25 years old.
Yeah, he came an inch short of a championship, got traded, not just traded, but also to the Lakers. The most, like, if you're a fan, you love them. And if you're not a fan, you know they suck, unless they have a great player. I'm biased as a jaded Suns fan. So I don't want to talk basketball too much, but in terms of the money, because this guy's talented, he's got a whole career. There's been arguments that, and he was traded for another superstar, but kind of like a 1B in Anthony Davis. But I was mentioning baseball stats. I'll go a little faster, but Shohei Ohtani had a record-setting $700 million contract. He was only going to get $2 million for each year for 10 years. And then after that, he was going to get, or is going to get $68 million for the next 10 years. And then Juan Soto, no relation, for the New York Mets, $765 million. He's getting all his money right away, not deferred. So we're talking talent. People pay for it. But we
did a show on the Lonely Office. I think I think it was almost a year ago, six months ago. I can't remember, but it was about Shohei Ohtani's contract. And just the idea of building out sort of a long-term contract over time with deferred money, but hitting that deferential payment deep into the contract. So save up front, pay at the end, and you kind of play out the longevity, the long play of the contract.
Yeah. And they recently, you guys probably should follow up because they are now World Series champions for the first time in I don't know how long.
And to be frank, he didn't have that great of a World Series either. So I mean, they wouldn't have got there without him. But baseball's funny like that. So anyway.
Yeah, and I don't. This isn't Bill Simmons or ESPN, but there's another player. So Bobby Bonilla is still getting paid. This was back in like the Enron thing where he like deferred. And they're still paying him like $1 million for like the
$1 million
rest of his
a year
life.
Until like the next 10 years or something.
Yeah. So let's bring it back to what we can take away, because when I saw this, like, I didn't believe it. Everyone thought it's a hoax. And as someone who is chubby himself and never really an athlete, but like that's kind of the rumor of like for as good as Luka was, he wasn't committed to the work. It's one thing to have talent, but it's another thing to have the discipline and the mob mentality, etc. So I don't want to get too much into that. And now I've been rambling for 4 minutes, but what do you make of it? You can go into the sports part of it for a little bit, but like, is it a good trade? Is it a bad trade? From a leadership, because someone's ass is getting in trouble. one of these teams is going to win. I can't imagine first, if only. But like, yeah, what was your big reaction originally?
Well, there's two reactions here. There's the basketball side of things, right? And then there's the parallel to the work life that many of us are in. And then you can also draw one more parallel line to an entrepreneurial experience too. And here's the through line that I see. From a basketball side, it's subjective. You could say, well, Dallas Mavericks ownership and the GM have a vision for what they want for the team, and they have an idea, and he's a all-world player. But from what that GM was looking at, they were looking for a more defensive-minded team. And what they saw in a guy who was amazing, right, who got them all the way to the finals, what they saw was they didn't know if they could, in their view, I'm not saying this is the right view, in their view, at least in the GM's view, it's like took a huge gamble here. He's betting that if he builds a team based on defense, that's going to win championships. He felt that they hit their peak. Now, the other thing that you have to take in consideration with that is they also cited, whether they're just using this as an excuse or not, but they cited that his work ethic as keeping his body in shape, when they're looking at how they're going to sustain this in the long run, they're looking at his career and they're going, man, we're not sure if he can sustain this level of performance. And he had a super max deal coming up.
I should have got to that earlier. $345 million he can't get because of, I don't know all the details.
There's a portion of it he's going to get significantly less. So they're looking at that as well. So there's that, right? There's the basketball decision. So you can say it was a good decision, not. Either way, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose.
Yeah.
If Dallas wins a championship, you can say they won the trade. If the Lakers, even if they don't win a chip this year, they have their future. And if he can buy in, second time around to a culture where he maybe takes care of himself better. But again, there's a narrative. The guy's playing. It's not like he's not horrifically out of shape, but there has been a lot of conversation about his performance.
If I got paid, this is the armchair. If we got paid $300 to do anything, you would think.
Oh, I'm in the gym 24/7. You pay me?
And the irony of
I'm just
LeBron James
all day.
Yeah, the other irony of now LeBron James, if he stays, because he's at the tail end of his career, but he's Tom Brady-esque in taking care of his body and investing, I think they say $1 million. He said it's not that much, but the point is he does it and other players haven't. And, he has his own nepotism issues or criticism. He can get traded, but he also has his own narrative where with the Mavs, for those, again, bear with me, who's not into sports, we're basically saying, hey, let's look at it. Like, we have this amazing sales guy in Luka Dončić, and he got us to like the number 2 sales company or whatever. And everyone thinks he's going to eventually get us there, if not multiple times, again and again. But next year, we're going to have to pay him $365 million.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not too sure if he's actually going to get us to that number 1. We know he's going to produce and we're always going to be a top 5 contender.
That's right.
But is it really worth that big of a salary? And they basically said no. I actually just saw something in between our break where it came, apparently didn't even come from the GM. It came from a higher up thing, and there's going to be rumors. But what I'm taking away here is, when you're talented, that's a big part of it, and all the discipline. I want to say bullshit means, but like you do have to work on it. Like someone who's talented with a bad attitude versus someone who's not talented but has a good attitude, that's going to be a different thing. But in the NBA and professional sports, like you really need both. And what I hear is Luka Dončić didn't have both, but that talent, everyone's like, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because, especially with the Lonely Office, when I'm listening and I send you an audio message, I'm like, everyone thinks they're talented. Everyone, no, I should say knows. But what they don't focus on is not everyone values it as much as you think it's valued at. And it hurts. Like apparently Luka's feelings are like crushed, and feel bad for someone who's making $100 million, let alone 300. But it's like, that you have to understand the system and the rules, because you can always be traded or laid off or move departments. I don't want to be nihilistic or cold, but I feel like that's the main takeaway here. Would you disagree or push back?
No. I do, but I think that the larger, the 10,000 foot view, if you will, is that it's not nihilistic, but I think it's just surrendering to know the environment that you're in regardless.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, could Luka have taken the conditioning and maybe matched the work ethic and the defensive prowess and some of those things, more seriously, along with the natural talent and gifts that he has on the offensive end? Could he have done that? Sure. Would that have probably raised the percentages of him not ever getting traded? Sure. So like, your performance at work matters. It does. What you bring matters, and how you take care of yourself and how you treat that system and that culture, there is ripple effects. So the lesson there is that no matter what your talent is, if you become something that makes the leadership kind of question your sustainability or your ability to help them take them to the next level, you're always on the chopping block. That being said, let's turn it over to Anthony Davis. Now, you could say maybe he did or he didn't underperform. He didn't. He did pretty well. He's got a championship.
Yeah.
He was 1B. I don't think anyone thought, maybe for early in his career he's a 1A. He's clearly a complimentary guy, a big, and legitimately, a great player. Did he always perform to that level? No. Yeah. But at the same time, you can look across the league and there's tons of players at their levels who are just unbelievably talented, do all the right thing.
Yeah.
They get traded.
That's
the point though. The point is, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, when you work, and this is a hyper polarized example because we know sports are different in this way where it's fast moving, there's trades, but in competitive in that way. But dude, you asked my takeaway. This is the thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing because the majority of people work for someone. I'm all about that. What I'm saying is, the reality is, when you work for someone, there is no such thing as security. Yeah. Like, to me, it's just a matter of when, because this is a different generational experience than folks had in the 50s, 70s, where there was this, long-term kind of, I'm going to retire with the gold watch. I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm saying, and now we're seeing, as you mentioned, even in the federal or the public space, and we won't dive into this, but the current regime is saying, hey, we're going to treat this differently, actually. Like, the social contract that you thought was there, written or not written. We're approaching this differently now. So my point, and I have empathy for all federal workers. It's like, at the same time, it's like, that's what the private sector has been like for the majority of, the last 50 years or so. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is, what do I take away from it? I'm surprised on a basketball level. I'm not surprised on a work or a leadership level. That's my.
Well, and you use the word security, which this is not sympathy, but it's definitely empathy of, and I don't know any high levels professional athletes. I maybe met one or two in a bar, once, but it's, the odds are tiny to make it professionally, yet alone have a great career. And so, Michael Jordan, I can't remember, he was making 10, 20 million. Scottie Pippen famously got a bad contract. Like, these are fractions. These are the greatest players not too long ago. And now there's an argument of, well, I think even Michael Jordan's out there in a clip saying these guys are getting so much money up front before they even play. They're not earning it. And that's kind of, okay, boomer or whatever. But I think he has a point. But also, like, if someone was going to pay me 300 million up front before I do a workshop, let's talk. I think I'm fucking good. So let's go. But the rules are different. And I was just watching the what was it called? Oh man, there's a women's 3-on-3 league. It's like a sub league of the WNBA, and I freaking love it. It's like a compressed court. It's so full court, we're compressed 3-on-3, and it moves faster. Like, they intentionally are trying to go against what is bad about basketball right now. But I'm like, I bet you those rules are different because it's in the off season versus WNBA that are still trying to get a higher salary. And you can get caught up in the fair and the morals of it, but it's like, how do I get my money now? And where you started with being an entrepreneur, like, you can control these things, but even then, to a degree, your client kills the contract. Your client wants double the scope.
Sure.
Like, if you're not ahead of that, and an abrupt switch to more of a superstar, but I think the rumor was, I just saw Jimmy Butler, who, as a Suns fan, I was debating if I was actually going to be happy. A really good player, another guy who went to the finals twice, came up short, just went to the Golden State Warriors. And he basically has been suspended because this very disciplined team in the Miami Heat he is unhappy because they didn't want to give him more money. And there's a mixed debate of, is he being professional about it?
Yeah.
And I had my reactions at first, but I'm like, you know what? I don't know what you're supposed to do, because at any point you can get traded, but you have these contracts. There's all these legalities that I don't understand, but that to me is the takeaway, is like when people go to work and they don't have any idea of how things work, they have these vague moral boundaries.
Right.
And that, like you gave a phrase for it earlier, but I was like, you need to know the real rules and who's in charge if you have any type of chance to come out on top. And I think as an entrepreneur, you're forced to do that. Otherwise, you drown. As an employee, you can feel self-righteous but get screwed over hypothetically for 40 years. And I think that's the big takeaway, is that Luka has all the talent.
Yeah.
But he got donkey kicked, and he's going to be okay for it. But I think everyone's like, whoa, what the hell?
Well, I think the thing you can glean from this too, from a employer-employee point of view, is there's learning and understanding on both sides, and it always works that way. Like you said, I mean, from my point of view as an entrepreneur, yeah, a client can fire me. I can fire a client. They could ask for more on the contract. I can choose to do it or not. There's a choice. And on top of that, if I lose a client, I go get another one. There's no impediment. I don't have to ask, hey, can I get with this? Or who's in the development? I'm in the business. I don't have, hey, CMO, I'm the CMO. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, come on now. Like, I'm going to take less money this year and invest into marketing. I make those decisions. I'm the COO. I'm the one making the decision with what's coming in, what's going out, how I'm going to reallocate. Am I going to be riskier this year? Are we going to go for sustainability this year? Are we going to go? So all those decisions, that's autonomy. Now, the risk on the other side, to your point, everyone says, well, the risk is you have to get it yourself. It's harder to be a development person. I get that. But once you get into a cycle of being able to develop business and you find a skill set that you could lead with, it becomes something for me. It was me wanting to get out of the business of the MBA, of being in the corporate world where you could always be traded, because ultimately, what are you left with? And so what I'm saying is, I at first was pissed at players like LeBron when they started making moves proactively, because I thought it was like, hey, you're dissing the city, you're dissing this. I look now as a 40-year-old guy, I look back, I go, that's the best move you can make.
Yeah.
Historically, doesn't matter if you're talented, you give all autonomy to that. And yes, are they paying you? Of course they're paying you. Yeah. And when you are called, should you perform and deliver? Absolutely. If you're not doing that, there is a breach of contract, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. But even when folks deliver, and there's precedent for this, you could deliver, you could be the best player in the world, but one thing happens, or there's a sick day, right? You could have an injury. They'll cut you, man. They're not your family. Anybody they're not your family. And so this I'm not saying this is a bad thing with I'm not trying to demonize companies. What I'm saying is listen, even as an entrepreneur, I have freelancers. I don't have any full-time employees. With my freelancers, I tell them, how can this work for you? Because what I can't do is I can't pay you full-time. But what I can do is add value with a percentage of your week. And I'm honest with them. Here's what I can give you. Here's what I can't give you. And I tell them, use this to build a career over here, or use this, leverage this thing that we did and try to do this. What I'm saying is, companies, ultimately, they're in charge of them, and their number one interest is their number one interest. And if you're serving it, great. But security is just a happenstance from that.
Yeah.
That's
when it's also,
do you know what I'm saying?
People think, no, I know exactly. And I think even then people think they have security, where you get laid off all the time. It's just this false sense of security. It's false. Like the difference between renting and owning a house. You still have to worry about your electricity and your water. But there are two things. I'll land this plane and we'll hopefully cross over again. But the first thing, I won't get too spiritual, but this morning I heard a thing from this pastor I listened to, and it was, it's not so much what you do, it's how you do it. And it was more about giving and not humble bragging and stuff. And I almost feel like for spirituality or whatever it is you believe, that's very true. But when it comes to work and money transactions, it's the reverse. It's
Yeah.
not how you feel or what you believe. It's what you do for other people. I just had a plumber out here. They either fix the thing or not. I really don't care about their origin story of I mean, I should say I do, but the priority is the problem. And the last thing is, I'm gonna be kind of silly here, but hopefully, or makes things stick out. Have you ever heard the word pendejo,
Yeah.
Aaron? Do you know what it means?
I don't know the definition, but I have an idea. It's an insult.
Yeah, it's like a dumb person. And my
Yeah.
dad used to tell me, and I was pretty sure he was lying, but then again, I'm like, well, maybe he's just being a pendejo. But he used to tell me it's someone who smells their own farts and likes it. and um and I kind of would, I forget how I said it in English later, but and my dad's from Mexico, by the way, so that's where I came from. But it's like, I think sometimes we all act like pendejos, and I think even Luka did. We believe our hype because it's there, the stats, the fans. Luka listened to, there's a million, if not billions of people that were Luka fans.
Sure.
But he wasn't paying attention to the most important people if he actually wanted to stay on the Mavs.
If you wanted to stay on the Mavs.
Yeah, and that's not the worst thing, but he's caught off guard. And that there's this great meme out there or great meme, but I think I sent this to you. Titanic with Jack and whoever, is it Kate Winslet? They're spinning on the Titanic, and it's two people. It says, I'm a sales rep, and I'm someone who's going to waste your time talking. And it's like, we can get caught up in all of that stuff. And I'm great at making podcasts, or I'm great at facilitating. And I think the big lesson is like, you need to pay attention to the people who are actually going to give you the next break, advantage, or I think even better, the feedback. Hey man, you're fat. You better get it together. Or hey man, stop playing too much basketball. We're worried you're going to get hurt in the summer. We need you to relax and recuperate. Whose opinion matters more? At least if money and whatever the goal is on the line, it can't be everyone else's. I think don't be a pendejo is my takeaway.
Yeah, I think I see that. I think it also depends on your perspective. So I think that if it's all about sort of your ultimate, what's your lighthouse? What are you going for? If your goal is to be an entrepreneur and to fit within a company and to have sustainability within a company and to build a career within a company and not have side things or side dreams or side hustles or side businesses or a thing that you're about to launch and you're just going to use this as in your moonlighting, right? If your goal is to be an entrepreneur, that the idea is this, then act accordingly. And that means that company's opinion or what they want or their culture, whatever it is, if your goal is to adhere to that, then adhere to it and you'll up your chances of that sustainable life within that company. If it's not guaranteed, but you up your percentages, right? Yeah. If you don't, then you know that you're reducing your percentages with that. Now, if you're in a company in general and your only goal is to just use that company and to build your personal brand, then act like it. Meaning, if the thing that you said here, that's the key factor, is that Luka was surprised. And I think it's a reminder to your point that like, if you wanted this to be forever, then you got to act like it's forever. Yeah. Even though it's not guaranteed to be forever. So it's just act like it. If you want to build out a personal brand, act like it. And then you won't be surprised when you just are talent. And then you keep, moving in that direction. And the company goes, hey, we're going to part ways. You're so talented, but it seems like you're kind of becoming your own vehicle. So the last thing I'll say here, dude, is this is a philosophical thing. This is a philosophical exercise that people need to do that a lot of people don't do, which is, you've already brought up the word, but here's a helpful hint, at least that I use to help navigate my journey when I was in agency life and then on my own as an entrepreneur. It's honestly looking at the world through a prism. And within that prism, there's a transactional experience. And then there is a more authentic experience, an emotionally connected experience, for lack of a better term. Working at a company, don't get it twisted, is a transactional experience. Now, it does not mean that those two paradigms don't intersect at times. Like, you can have authentic experiences within transactional experiences, right? Yeah. You can go to a bank and say, I got to take out some cash. And then you just strike up a actually meaningful conversation with the teller. But for the most part, like you said, Plumber's coming in, got a job. Going to the bank teller, I need this thing. It's inherently self-interest. I need this thing. You're serving as a conduit between me and this objective. Let's not pretend that I'm here for your soul. I'm not, right? A company's not here for your soul either. Now, they're going to use tactics to tell you that they are. We're a family. They're a family until budget becomes an issue. They're a family until shit hits the fan. They're a family until it's between you and them. They're picking them. Yeah. And that's the difference between an authentic experience like a family, because family by nature in its real form is sacrificial. Family, like you're doing right now, you're outside, you're in the dark. You're
I feel like watching, I started a conspiracy podcast.
Yeah, my dude's in the dark because you have a family situation inside and you're sacrificing your nice home with the lighting, and you're out there and getting bit up by whatever mosquito. You know, my point is you're sacrificing for your family. That's real. Company's not going to do that for you 9 times out of 10. Don't get me wrong. There's some great leaders. There's some great companies who break the mold, but 9 times out of 10, no one's like, man, this is amazing. This company really sacrificed. Now, small businesses, that mom and pops, that's a different story. But when we're talking about the traditional corporate track, so what I'm saying is, you'll get clearer understanding if you look at things as they are, which is, this is a transactional experience, and this is not an authentic experience in the sense, like, it's not family, it's not friends, it's not a higher state of being, it's not a spiritual journey, it's not a therapeutic journey, right? That's a different category. And I think some people get it twisted and they buy into the propaganda, even their own of what the company is doing.
Oh yeah, I think people think they know the difference, and then they still
they're
smell
surprised.
The fart, if you will. One, I'm going to tease this because I think that is a great. I won't even say I disagree with you. I just think it's the authentic word. You, because I wouldn't say I'm sacrificing here, but I get your point, and thankfully there are no mosquitoes. But I think businesses could be a lot more authentic, and that is by stop saying that we're a family and have this more clear cut rules and not this gray mushy crap. But at the same time, I think family sometimes are the most disingenuous people, and there's obligation as opposed to I really want to do this, and it's a different vibe. So let's tease that, because I think we could have a good conversation. But let me plug you, or actually let me plug yourself, TLO and 7 minutes for my Career Blind Spot listeners who hear this audibly.
Oh yeah. Just find us anywhere you find podcasts, The Lonely Office. And it really explores the messy line between work and life. And so far, like I said, we partnered with Glassdoor last year. We're coming up on a year, and we've become a top 50 career podcast, and it's been amazing. So we have some special guests coming up. Our conversations seem to resonate with the job seeker, and we have different perspectives. You can tell for me, I'm sort of that, a guy from Cleveland who has a little bit of a blue collar perspective, but at the same time, an entrepreneurial bent. And we have our other co-hosts, Matt Cimboli, who's a serial entrepreneur, and he's also bought and sold companies. So he's able to kind of navigate and give advice on those type of transactions from that perch. And then we have Leah Ova, who is a marketer, but she's also a working mom, as well as, a social media influencer. So we kind of have this nice mixture of different opinions. We're all from different parts of the country, and we bring that to the conversation. And what we really try to do is honor the conversations happening in the Glassdoor Bowls and use those as our topics. So it's honoring the conversations that people are having, and it's not us. It's us basically filtering them and having meta conversations around it. So yeah, TLO, check it out. And it's awesome. And then if you like stories, check out 7 Minute Stories. That's
and 7 Minute Stories. That's your art. That's your project. I realized my computer just went night mode, so I just got even more stealth. But yeah, I'm a big fan. For those listeners who haven't, check it out. It's a Glassdoor podcast, The Lonely Office. You have great guests, and I'm a big fan of Mo. I've seen him on the other show.
Oh yeah,
I just saw this is an actor who I feel like has a lot of crossover appeal. It's like, you're entertainers, we don't want to hear your opinions, but like the best ones pull from their real life. And I saw that in his show, he gets stuck on the other side of the border without a passport. And I was show. Like, yeah, check it out. We can go forever. Thank you for doing this last minute, and we will see what happens to LeBron.
Did I give you any sound bites? I hope I did. I hope this.
Oh, plenty, man. Throwing. Yeah, no, this is great. And hello to the live stream. I think that's my first one. So.
Oh yeah, sweet. Yeah. Cool. All right, man.
All right, brother. Thank you so much.
I make this show for leaders, those who don't point fingers, but point towards ways they can do better at work. My ask for listening is you share the show on social and or with other leaders, established or aspiring. Until then, no talent, no culture, no excuses.